they came from, and they have a period of time. And if they make it, we're going to work with them so that maybe someday, with a little work, they can come back in if they're good people, if they're the kind of people that we want in our company, industrious people that could love our country. And if they're not, they won't. But it will give them a path to becoming, to coming back into the country. If they miss that limit, they're going to be taken out of our country. And they will never get a path to come back in. And it'll be a much tougher process. And it's called self-deportation. And by doing that, you're talking about so many millions of people. By doing that, by the way, we've taken out thousands of terrorists, drug lords. What we've done is amazing. And I'm sure Tom Homan and Christy Noem have done an incredible job. They really have done an incredible job. But it's a hard job. So we're going to have a self-deportation where they deport themselves out of our country. And we'll work with them, and we're going to try, and if we think they're good, if they have, the people we want in our country, they're going to come back into our country. We'll give them a little easier route. But if they don't work, and if we take them out after the date, then they're never coming back, and that's the least of the problems that they're going to have. Yeah, please.
What's your expectation for your meeting with the Canadian Prime Minister tomorrow?
I don't know. He's coming to see me. I'm not sure what he wants to see me about, but I guess he wants to make a deal. Everybody does. They all want to make a deal because we have something that they all want. We have something that they all want. China wants to make a deal very badly. You see what's happening to China. China's being decimated, and I don't want that to happen. But they have to make a fair deal. We were losing hundreds of billions of dollars a year. We were losing think of it, on our trade policies with Biden. We're losing $5 billion a day. I think Josh, as a great businessman, would not let that happen too long, right? How many groups could lose $5 billion a day? If you lose $5 billion one day, that's the end of that company, right? You're fired. He says, you're fired. Get out of here. So we essentially did that, and we have it down to a very low number. We're doing really well, really well. Yeah.
How did you decide to reopen Alcatraz? Can you walk us through that decision?
Did I say what?
To reopen Alcatraz. How will you use it? How did you come up with the idea?
Well, I guess I was supposed to be a movie maker. We started with the movie making, and we'll end. I mean, it represents something very strong, very powerful in terms of law and order. Our country needs law and order. Alcatraz is, I would say, the ultimate, right? Alcatraz, Sing Sing and Alcatraz, the movies. But it's right now a museum, believe it or not. A lot of people go there. It housed the most violent criminals in the world. And nobody ever escaped. One person almost got there, but they, as you know the story, they found his clothing rather badly ripped up, and it was a lot of shark bites, a lot of problems. Nobody's ever escaped from Alcatraz, and just represented something strong having to do with law and order. We need law and order in this country, and so we're going to look at it. Some of the people up here are going to be working very hard on that, and we had a little conversation. I think it's going to be very interesting. We'll see if we can bring it back in large form, add a lot. But I think it represents something. Right now it's a big hulk that's sitting there rusting and rotting. You look at it, it's sort of, you saw that picture that was put out, it's sort of amazing. But it sort of represents something that's both horrible and beautiful and strong and miserable, weak. It's got a lot of qualities that are interesting, and I think they make a point. Okay, are you guys okay? I want to just say that it's such an honor to be up here with my friends, because this is a group of people that have done an amazing job, and all we can do, Muriel and I, is give them the greatest sight there is, I think, that I've ever seen for something like this. And I did very well in the real estate business. I think this is the greatest site there is anywhere in the world for exactly what you guys are doing. And we'll work with you. We've got a lot of work to do to get it going, but we'll work with you and we'll try and make the dream come true. And I want to thank you all very much for being here. Thank you. Thank you very much. We're going to help the people of Gaza get some food. People are starving, and we're going to help them get some food. A lot of people are making it very, very bad. If you look, Hamas is making it impossible because they're taking everything that's brought in. But we're going to help the people of Gaza because they're being treated very badly by Hamas. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Russ. Thank you, everyone.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Hi, welcome to NTD Newsroom and happy Monday. I'm Fiona G. We just saw there a live look of President Donald Trump making an announcement that D.C. will be hosting the 2027 NFL Draft. A lot of answers there as well to reporter questions, specifically on Alcatraz and deportations. And on that note, the Trump administration is doubling down on efforts to incentivize these self-deportations. Homeland Security says it'll offer $1,000 to illegal immigrants who self-deport, and it's part of a broader push on immigration enforcement. NTD's international correspondent Arian Pazdar reports.
$1,000 for illegal immigrants who self-deport from the U.S. On top of that, assistance in paying for travel expenses. Homeland Security says those financial incentives are for individuals who choose to leave the country voluntarily. And immigrants who tell the government that they plan to return home will be deprioritized for detention and removal. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says this is the safest option for our law enforcement and aliens and is a 70% saving for U.S. taxpayers. The administration is asking immigrants to use the CBP Home app to announce their voluntary return. The app used to be called CBP One during the Biden administration. It was used by immigrants from some countries to enter the U.S. The app has now been redesigned to assist with self-deportations. Arian Pazdar, NTD News.
An illegal immigrant from Guatemala who recently gave birth in Arizona has bypassed fast-track deportation. She was 8 months pregnant when she crossed the U.S. border. Her lawyer and a federal official said her deportation was delayed after the state's governor intervened. A spokesperson for the Arizona governor said she has been clear in her opposition to inhumane immigration enforcement practices. The Department of Homeland Security said yesterday that border officials initially rescued the pregnant woman who illegally crossed the border. The agency wrote on X she was taken to hospital and then remained under supervision. It said no rights were denied and the woman now awaits a court date. They said the child remains with the mother. Now, the White House border czar said in a recent interview that illegal immigrants who give birth in the United States are not immune from deportation. President Trump yesterday addressed the trade war with China, saying he had no plans to speak with Chinese Communist Party leader Xi Jinping this week. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on that, a new tariff on foreign movies, and the directive to reopen an infamous prison.
President Trump on Sunday told reporters aboard Air Force One that he had no plans to speak with Chinese leader Xi Jinping this week.
No plans to speak to him, but China and our people are talking about different things. Yeah.
Last week, China said it was open to speaking to the United States, but demanded a cancellation of the current tariffs. The president says he wants a fair deal with China.
But China's been ripping us off for many years, so maybe something should be thought about, a little bit of retribution.
Trump says meetings are going on with almost all countries, but the U.S. ultimately holds the cards.
You keep asking the same question. When will you agree? It's up to me. It's not up to them. It's up to me.
President Trump on Sunday announced a 100% tariff on all movies produced outside the United States. Trump says the United States movie industry is dying a very fast death. The president blames other countries for, quote, offering incentives to draw filmmakers and studios away from the United States. On Sunday, Trump also announced he will reopen and rebuild the historic Alcatraz prison off the San Francisco coast to jail the nation's most ruthless and violent repeat offenders.
It's a sad symbol, but it's a symbol of law and order.
The facility infamously jailed well-known criminals such as gangster Al Capone and George Machine Gun Kelly. Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi dismissed Trump's directive, saying Alcatraz is now a very popular national park and major tourist attraction. President Trump said Sunday his administration is currently in the process of rapidly nominating new judges who will not be demanding trials for each illegal immigrant.
We need judges that are not going to be demanding trials for every single illegal immigrant. We have millions of people that have come in here illegally.
Trump says there are thousands of murderers in the country illegally.
We're getting them out. And they say, we don't want them out. We want them to stay in our country.
Last week, Trump announced the first judicial nomination of his second term in office. He is expected to make more than 100 nominations over the next 4 years to the federal courts. And President Trump announced he'll appoint a new national security advisor in about 6 months. He said former National Security Advisor Mike Waltz didn't resign, but was promoted to UN ambassador, a role Trump called an upgrade. The president says White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller is at the top of the totem pole to be the new National Security Advisor.
And I think he sort of indirectly already has that job. You understand? Because he has a lot to say about a lot of things. He's a very valued person in the administration.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio is currently serving as National Security Advisor on an interim basis. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
The White House says no final decisions have been made on Trump's proposed tariffs on foreign films. A spokesperson says the administration is exploring all options to carry out the president's directive aimed at protecting national security and, quote, making Hollywood great again. And more from the president's interview with NBC's Meet the Press. President Trump said he has no plans to drop tariffs on Chinese goods in order to bring about negotiations.
Would you consider dropping the tariffs to get China to the negotiating table?
No.
I have May 2nd Chinese Commerce Ministry.
Do you know what they said today?
They've made
you know
numerous
how many
statements.
people speak for
Yes.
China? It's like
Yes.
50
They've
different.
made numerous
I
statements.
can give you
Yes.
a statement for any occasion.
Yes. Yes.
But they said today they want to talk.
Currently, the United States imposes a 145% duty on Chinese imports, while the CCP has retaliated with a 125% tariff on U.S. imports. Trump says he plans to lower the rate eventually, but gave no hard timeline. The president says the Chinese economy is collapsing, adding that factories are closing and their unemployment is rising rapidly. President Trump says the United States, meanwhile, is gaining from the period of slowed trade. The president says the U.S. is saving hundreds of billions of dollars from essentially not doing business with China. And President Trump has shut down speculation about serving a third term. He named Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio as the best contenders to replace him in 2028. During an interview with NBC, Trump acknowledged that a third term is something he's not allowed to do. He added that 4 years is plenty of time to carry out his goals. Speculation arose after the Trump Organization last month started selling Trump 2028 hats. But the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution states, quote, no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice. President Trump also commented on what he called a transition period for the U.S. economy. In reference to deportations, he said he and his lawyers will, quote, obviously follow what the Supreme Court said. And he also said the U.S. is closer with one party than the other to reaching a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia. President Donald Trump said he will donate his entire presidential salary back to the federal government, as he did in his first term. President Trump said it's a substantial salary. It's $500,000 a year or $550,000 a year, 4 years, a couple of $1 million, referencing the salary plus other benefits such as travel and expense allowances. He also did so during his first term, donating his salary to various federal departments, including the National Park Service, the Department of Education, Department of Health and Human Services efforts related to the opioid crisis, the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Veterans Affairs, the Surgeon General's COVID-19 response, and the Small Business Administration. Now, since taking office for his first term back in 2017, President Trump has made a major focus to reduce government spending where possible. House Republicans are racing into a pivotal week as they try to pass President Trump's sweeping legislative agenda, but major policy disagreements are threatening to derail their timeline. House Speaker Mike Johnson says lawmakers have to get the bill passed for the people as soon as possible, this speaking on Fox News.
It will send stability out there to the markets, the bond market, the stock market. It will allow job creators and innovators and entrepreneurs to know that their tax rates are stabilized and permanent going forward so they can plan accordingly. And it will be like jet fuel to the economy. So, and by the way, will prevent the largest tax increase in U.S. history, which is what would happen by default.
Key committees have delayed work over internal clashes on Medicaid cuts, tax policy, and green energy credits. Fiscal conservatives want deeper spending cuts, but President Trump has insisted Medicaid benefits stay intact. The biggest flashpoint here, whether to raise the state and local tax deduction cap, with Republicans in high-tax states demanding more relief. Speaker Mike Johnson aims for final passage by Memorial Day. The Chinese Communist Party's systematic forced organ harvesting in the spotlight on Capitol Hill. Later today, lawmakers in the House will vote on 2 bills to hold the regime accountable for the human rights abuse. NTD's Melina Wisecup has this story.
On the House agenda later today, votes are scheduled on the Stop Forced Organ Harvesting Act and the Falun Gong Protection Act. Both bills aim to hold the CCP accountable for its systematic forced organ harvesting, targeting the persecuted faith group Falun Gong.
In China, there's no waiting list for organs. So what that means is there's a ready supply. There's a ready supply because they take them from healthy, living people, particularly these folks that practice the religion of Falun Gong.
Lead sponsor of the Senate version of the bill, Senator Ted Cruz, told the Epoch Times, the United States, as the beacon of freedom around the world, cannot be silent when the Chinese Communist Party is engaged in systemic torturing, incarceration, and forced organ harvesting of Falun Gong practitioners. Falun Gong, also known as Falun Dafa, is a meditation discipline practiced worldwide based on truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. The Chinese regime has long sought to eliminate the practice in response to its rapidly expanding popularity in the 1990s. In addition to sanctions imposed on those who facilitate the abuse, the bills would revoke U.S. property and restrict visas of abusers. If passed, it will become U.S. policy to avoid cooperation with China in the organ transplant sector during the CCP's reign.
Forced organ harvesting is big business for Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party and shows absolutely no sign of abating, which is why we and the rest of the world needs to step up.
We do business with China. We buy a bunch of products from China, and we're essentially saying by doing so that it's okay to deal with somebody that kills people for their organs to sell to other people, which is barbaric.
The bills are bipartisan. Congressman Pat Ryan, the Democrat co-lead, said, quote, "We must do everything in our power to hold CCP malign actors and organ traffickers accountable for their unspeakable crimes." 3 U.S. states now have laws to stop complying with the abuse by restricting health insurance coverage for organ transplant surgeries connected with China. And Arizona is pushing for similar legislation. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Wisecup, NTD News.
Coming up, the NIH shuts down its last Beagle lab after years of controversy. Allegations of cruel experiments surface, over 2,000 dogs killed. We'll be speaking with a guest on what this means going forward. And Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer expresses frustration with the Federal Aviation Administration. The New York Democrat says major delays at New Jersey's Newark Airport could be the beginning of more to come. That and more when we come back.
Shenyun Creations, the streaming platform from Shenyun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.
If joint pain from aging is slowing you down, Omega XL can help you get back in the saddle, just like it did for John Walsh.
Today I'm here at my ranch exercising some of my polo ponies. Got to be really fit to ride these horses. So as you get older, it gets tougher. I was starting to suffer some of that business, and then I ran into somebody who said, look, you should try Omega XL, and look what it's done. I feel better than I felt in the last 30 years.
I'm Reve Walsh. I'm John Walsh's wife. I ride fox hunters, and sometimes I'm in the saddle for 3-5 hours at a time. A lot of work out here.
I wouldn't have been able to do this. Muck a stall, throw hay, do all the things that needs to be done on a ranch a couple years ago. But Omega XL gave me the ability to get back in the saddle. It works great.
Once you try it, You don't want to be without it. Makes a huge difference.
It does. Take it every single day, and you know, there's a benefit. It's made you a lot nicer to me.
If you've been living with pain, it's time to get this special offer, the Omega XL, the joint health supplement that millions have trusted for more than 20 years. Omega XL, it's sourced from the green-lipped mussel, exclusively found in the pristine waters of New Zealand, some of the cleanest waters on Earth. Omega XL, it's natural, drug-free, and it's backed by more than 40 years of clinical research that show it really works. Try Omega XL today. Pick up your phone and call the number at the bottom of your screen right now for a special offer. Buy one, get two free. 2 bottles of Omega XL plus Vitamin XL D3, a value of more than $100. But call today and you pay only $39.95. That's a savings of more than 60%. Plus, it's backed by our 60-day money-back guarantee.
Try it. You got nothing to lose.
Call or go online right now to get this special offer. 2 bottles of Omega XL plus Vitamin XL D3 for only $39.95. Call now.
Kids love it. Parents trust it. Obviously. Explore GJW Plus Kids Series and Ganjiong Campus courses led by expert educators. This is spectacular. Children will learn values like respect, responsibility, and knowledge in language, science, and more. Wow. All while having fun. Perfect. Subscribe today at GJW Plus Kids, where learning meets fun.
Thanks for staying with us. Some news now on animal testing. The director of the National Institutes of Health, Jay Bhattacharya, announced on Fox News the closure of the agency's last in-house beagle lab. The NIH confirmed the news on social media. A report from the medical watchdog group White Coat Waste found the NIH allegedly forced beagles into septic shock after pumping pneumonia-causing bacteria into their lungs. Their years-long investigation alleges more than 2,000 beagles were killed by the NIH over 40 years. Speaking on Fox News, Bhattacharya said people for the ethical treatment of animals sent him flowers following the closure of the lab. And joining us now to discuss this story in further detail is Jeffrey Tucker. He's the founder and president of the Brownstone Institute and senior columnist for the Epoch Times. Jeffrey, thanks for joining us today. Now, the National Institutes of Health director, Jay Bhattacharya, he's announcing this, right? That this agency, it's closing its last in-house beagle lab. Your reaction to this? Right. Jeffrey, it seems that we are having some audio issues right now. I don't think I can hear you. We'll come back to you in just a moment. All right, Jeffrey? All right, we're going to move on for now. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, he wants to clean up what he calls a mess at the Federal Aviation Administration. The New York Democrat says major delays at New Jersey's Newark Airport could be the beginning of more widespread problems for air travel.
So today, I'm demanding a full Inspector General investigation as to what went on. I have asked the Office of Inspector General to thoroughly investigate what's going on at Newark and in the East Coast so these problems don't get worse and spread all across the nation. The chaos at Newark could very well be a harbinger if issues like these aren't fixed, and if the FAA can't get real solutions off the ground.
Passengers with flights to or from Newark Airport encountered long delays and cancellations Saturday due to an air traffic controller shortage. United Airlines recently cut 35 daily flights from its Newark schedule. United CEO Scott Kirby cited technology failures at the New Jersey airport. Newark Liberty International pointed to both staffing issues and construction when it warned travelers about delays on Thursday. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy announced a program the same day to recruit new controllers and to give existing ones incentives not to retire. The state of Texas has a new city. Residents of the small area voted 212-6 to formally establish Starbase this weekend. The city spans just 1.6 square miles along the Gulf of America. The majority of the land houses facility for Elon Musk's SpaceX and its employees. Starbase, Texas will have a mayor and 2 commissioners to oversee local planning and taxes. SpaceX has drawn widespread support from local officials for creating jobs and investment in the area, but the creation of an official town has also prompted concerns about expanding the tech tycoon's personal control and whether he should have the authority to temporarily close a popular beach and state park in the area. SpaceX rocket launches and engine tests, as well as moving certain equipment around the launch base, require closing a local highway and public access to Boca Chica Beach and Boca Chica State Park. Critics say closure authorities should stay with the county government because it represents a broader population outside Starbase that uses the beach and park. Cameron County Judge Eddie Trevino Jr. has said the county has worked well with SpaceX and that there is no need for change. And we now know the identity of a special deputy killed by a driver in Cincinnati, Ohio. Deputy Larry Henderson died Friday after a car rammed into him while he was directing traffic outside a University of Cincinnati graduation event. Investigators say the suspected driver is the father of an 18-year-old shot and killed by police the previous day. Authorities are trying to determine if Rodney Hinton deliberately struck Henderson. Hinton is charged with aggravated murder and is currently being held without bond. Henderson served for 33 years on the force. Last December, he retired but stayed on with the sheriff's office as a special deputy. A rescue at sea off the Miami Beach coast. The U.S. Coast Guard pulled 32 people from an overloaded yacht on Saturday. Photos released by the Coast Guard shows a yacht submerged at the stern with people standing towards the bow area. According to a local yacht broker, the vessel made by Lamborghini has a loading capacity of 16 people, with 32 people on board during the time of the rescue. The Coast Guard said a multi-agency effort was undertaken to rescue all 32 people, with no injuries reported around 5 p.m. local time. Eyewitness footage yesterday showed the yacht floating in the Bay Area next to a pilot vessel. Up next, the Israeli army has issued orders to call up tens of thousands of reservists. The aim here is to enhance and expand the operation in Gaza. And Ukraine is renewing calls for a 30-day ceasefire, saying a truce is possible at any time. What Moscow says about the importance of a meeting between the presidents of Russia and the U.S. We'll be right back.
Imagine a coffee that cares for your health. Expertly fermented with a 50 enzyme complex to enhance flavor and remove bitterness. Small batch roasted to a decadent medium dark, resulting in a brew that is gentle on digestion, low acid, and up to 90% less caffeine than regular coffee. Try America's first enzyme fermented coffee today.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, please listen closely. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. It's a rate lock for your life insurance that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. Many policies you see don't have one, but you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. This plan was designed for people on a fixed income with coverage options that start at $9.95 a month. That's less than 35 cents a day. Your rate is locked in for life. Coverage can never be canceled, and your acceptance is guaranteed. You cannot be turned down because of your health. See for yourself. Call for an information kit and gift. Both are free with no obligation.
Call 1-800-624-6556 for your free information and your free gift. That's 1-800-624-6556. 1-800-624-6556. Call now.
My name's Stacy. I'm 57, and I was adopted in 2020.
We were adopted in 2019.
And we were adopted in 2021.
We had a house, and it sounds crazy, but it wasn't a home. The one thing that Jake and Emma brought is it became a home.
When I met Dakota, he had just turned 14.
You weren't there for the first this and the first that. I missed the first words, but we got a lot of other firsts.
Watching her say, oh my God, I cannot believe I got my license. And she's like, I passed. And I'm like, girl.
See them grow. It is.
They chose to love us. They didn't have to. They chose us. Family.
You and you. Kids in the middle.
What I thought was a complete life was nowhere near complete, but it is now.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
Every day, thousands of kids start vaping. So if you want to talk to your kids, you got to get it trending. I was just trying to get your attention.
Could I just ask me?
Visit talkaboutvaping.org for tips on when and how to have the vape talk.
Thanks for staying with us. The Israeli army has issued orders to call up tens of thousands of reservists. The aim is to enhance and expand the operation in Gaza. Vehicles arrived at a military drafting station in northern Israel today after reservists received a call to duty. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's security cabinet has approved a gradual expansion of the offensive against the Hamas terror group in Gaza. A senior Israeli defense official said today there was a window of opportunity for a hostage deal during President Trump's visit to the region next week. Otherwise, Israel will begin its new operation in the enclave. And Iran says it remains committed to diplomacy with the United States. The government made the comments today after a fourth round of nuclear talks with Washington scheduled for Saturday was postponed for so-called logistical reasons. Iran says it is flexible regarding the timing of talks, saying it is waiting for details from mediator Oman. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said last week that Iran should import enriched uranium for its nuclear program rather than having the ability to enrich uranium at home. President Trump has threatened to bomb Iran if no agreement is reached with his administration on the Islamic Republic's nuclear program. Western countries say the program is geared towards weaponization. Iran, meanwhile, claims its nuclear program is purely for civilian purposes. Ukraine is renewing calls for a 30-day ceasefire, saying a truce is possible at any time. Moscow, meanwhile, highlighting the need for a direct meeting between the presidents of the U.S. and Russia. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is in Prague today. During his visit, Zelensky renewed calls for a 30-day pause in hostilities. The U.S. initially proposed a temporary truce after a previous limited ceasefire ended. The Kremlin, meanwhile, says a meeting between Russian President Vladimir Putin and President Trump is necessary. Over the weekend, President Trump said he might consider meeting with Putin during a trip to Saudi Arabia this month. Trump is reportedly scheduled to visit Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE to take part in a summit with Gulf leaders. Moscow says Putin has no trips to the Middle East planned for mid-May, but according to the Kremlin, the important meeting has to be prepared properly and requires efforts at various expert levels. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said today he had a warm conversation with President Trump on tariffs and a defense pact with the U.S. and the UK. Meanwhile, Trump called Albanese very friendly a day after the country held federal elections.
Well, I can only say that he's been very, very nice to me, very respectful to me. I have no idea who the other person is that ran against him. And, you know, we've had a very good relationship.
Voters elected Albanese for a second term in a surprise comeback against the conservative Liberal National Coalition. The coalition was ahead in polls as recently as February. President Trump said he did not know the person running against Albanese. Cost of living was one of the top issues in this election. About 48% of voters in one survey also picked the uncertainties triggered by Trump as one of their top 5 concerns. The United States imposed a 10% tariff on Australia, criticizing the country for its trade barriers against U.S. products like beef. However, some experts say the Trump factor had little impact on how Australians voted. Delays are impacting thousands of train passengers in Spain. The disruptions come after a signaling system cable was stolen yesterday between Madrid and Seville. The theft affected dozens of trains just as people were returning home to the capital after a holiday weekend. According to state media, 9 trains were left stranded between stations. Many passengers interviewed said they were forced to spend the night on board. Today, crowds gathered at Madrid's Atocha station seeking information about their trains from rail employees. Spain's railway infrastructure company said the cable theft took place at 4 points on the high-speed line in Toledo in central Spain. Last week, a massive power outage in Spain and Portugal ground high-speed train traffic in Spain to a halt. George Simeon is leading the polls in Romania's presidential election. Who is he, though, and what's going to happen next? Here's a closer look.
This is not about a person, but a principle. This is about the will of the people.
George Simeon was victorious in the first round of Romania's presidential election rerun on Sunday, but did not garner a majority of votes, forcing a runoff on May 18th. He will face off against centrist candidate and Bucharest Mayor Nicușor Dan, who appears to have finished in second according to near-final results. The 38-year-old Simeon rode a wave of anger with mainstream leaders. He opposes military aid to neighboring Ukraine, is critical of the EU leadership, and says he supports the U.S. president's Make America Great Again movement. Last Friday, he told Reuters that Russia was not a threat to NATO, and the only risk to Europe's eastern flank was NATO being dismantled.
We are not threatened by Russia. Russia doesn't have the potential to represent a significant and important threat towards the biggest military alliance in the world.
Sunday's vote comes 5 months after a first attempt to hold the election was canceled over alleged Russian interference.
The European Union is announcing a $500 million incentive package to boost European science research. The goal here is to attract scientists from around the world to go to Europe. The bloc's Commission president made the announcement while in Paris today.
Science is an investment, and we need to offer the right incentives. We see today that the role of science in today's world is questioned. The investment in fundamental, free and open research is questioned. What a gigantic miscalculation.
The initiative is believed to be aimed at attracting scientists from the U.S. Last month, various U.S. university researchers had National Science Foundation funding canceled. President Trump ordered to end support to research on diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI. The EU Commission president did not mention Trump by name, but said it was a huge mistake to undermine free and open research. Up next, Olympic swimmer Gary Hall Jr. received replicas of his 10 Olympic medals today. The originals were destroyed during the LA wildfires back in January. That story and more when we come back.
Stay tuned to get a free month of home warranty protection. Tired of searching for contractors when your home appliances and systems break down, only to leave you stuck with a huge repair bill and shoddy repairs? Plumbing, heating, air conditioning, and appliance breakdowns could cost thousands.
Hi, I'm Ty Pennington, here for Choice Home Warranty. They protect my home from expensive repairs, and they can do the same for you. No matter if it's your refrigerator, plumbing, or more than 20 other home systems and appliances, Choice Home Warranty has saved millions of homeowners a whole lot of money. For a low monthly fee, you get their nationwide network of trusted local technicians with plans that cover repairs and replacements done quickly and the right way.
I would recommend anyone who is listening to this to call Choice Home Warranty up. It eliminates the anxiety, frustration, and it saves you money.
Don't let an appliance or home system break the bank, leaving you stressed. Call Choice Home Warranty before that happens and get your first month free. Plus, call in the next 5 minutes and we'll give you free limited roof leak coverage. That's a $70 value, free. Just call now.
No more headaches searching for technicians. No more budget-breaking chaos. Just a peace of mind of having Choice Home Warranty at your service. I trust Choice Home Warranty with my home, and you should too.
Year after year, Choice Home Warranty is recognized as the nation's top home warranty and has thousands of 5-star reviews from real homeowners. Experience real budget protection and call Choice Home Warranty now.
Stop throwing money down the toilet chasing contractors. Call Choice Home Warranty now and save big with their special offer of your first month free and free limited roof coverage. Don't wait another minute. Call now.
Call Choice Home Warranty for your free personalized quote and to get your first month free. Call in the next 5 minutes, and as our special offer, you'll receive free limited roof coverage. That's over $100 in savings. This offer won't last long. Call now to lock in your rate and save big. Call 800-216-9114, 800-216-9114.
We said we'd never give in to a meltdown.
Okay.
And we'd never babysit with a screen. We said we'd never let the toys take over.
Mariella!
Never leave the house looking, well, and never let them out of our sight. Skylar, come here. Cars get hot fast, and kids can be at risk. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock.
All right, welcome back. NIH Director Jay Bhattacharya has announced that the agency is closing its last in-house beagle lab. Now, there are shocking reports that some 2,000 beagles were killed by the NIH over a span of 4 decades. Now let's bring on Jeffrey Tucker, founder and president of the Brownstone Institute and senior columnist for the Epoch Times. Jeffrey, it's good to see you. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
All right, great. So give us your initial reactions to this announcement.
It's thrilling and long overdue. Jay Bhattacharya is doing a fantastic job at NIH. He's having to go through thousands, tens of thousands of contracts and figuring out which ones are compatible with real science versus those that are fake science, non-reproducible, or based in things like animal cruelty. And he's taking a red line and just striking through them one by one. And this is essential to restore science and restore public trust in health and our public health agencies again.
To this point, Jeffrey, this was a lab that was on site at the NIH campus. How surprised do you think Americans are to find out that this type of testing on these animals was or maybe still is going on?
This was very commonly known a few years ago when it was revealed that Anthony Fauci was doing it. But people have forgotten about it, of course. That's what always happens. But I think it's very encouraging that we've seen this change.
Jeffrey, the NIH director, he's also saying that we've got to get rid of all of these beagle experiments on NIH campus. So does that mean that this type of experiment is still likely to be happening elsewhere?
I think it's going to take a while for them to go through everything. You can't even imagine what it must be like for Jay and his staff to try to figure out all these problems that exist in an agency that's been neglected for so many years, even decades going back. So they're having to clean up a lot of things. I'm sure they might have just scratched the surface of it. But the good thing is that Jay's activities have had a chilling effect on science in a good way. People have stopped doing silly things for which they know they're going to get in trouble. So that's very good, and universities are very concerned because the free ride is coming to an end. And this is extremely important to fix science. Jay is a friend of mine. He always said that his goal at NIH was to restore the credibility of good, solid, old-fashioned science. And that's his North Star. That's his purpose. That's all he cares about. That's what he's dedicating every day. He doesn't have to be doing this. He's a full professor at Stanford. He could be doing anything else but this. But he's chosen to make a sacrifice for the purposes of the public and to restore science, which he strongly believes in, to its proper status in American life. And that's this ending these kinds of experiments is definitely part of that.
And I think a promising aspect of this is the fact that the goal of ending these experiments, it's received quite a bit of bipartisan support.
Well, it has to. I mean, who can possibly defend these things? And thank you for saying that. This is generally true in public health. For sure. I have an article coming out tomorrow in Epoch Times about specific ways that we can restore credibility to public health on a nonpartisan basis, a non-ideological basis, just common sense changes that we can make to stop the corruption, stop the politics, and go back to good old-fashioned science. The purpose of NIH was to fund research that couldn't be profitable otherwise, with genuine experts in institutions that really cared about science. And that includes reproducible studies, not fake science. So that's what Jay is dedicated himself to do, and that's what he works every day to do. I know him well, and my conviction is that he's not going to waste his time at NIH. He has 1,000 other things he'd rather be doing. So long as he's there, he's going to be serving the public and serving the cause of good, high-quality science.
Now, I think another really important note here to point out is that this research, it was being funded by taxpayers, many of whom themselves, they own dogs, they love dogs, or they love other animals. Do you think that this could start prompting the public to hold the NIH more accountable in the future?
I think so. One of the things that Jay is going to do, and this goes for RFK too, and the entire team that's in charge now, is that they're going to get more transparent about exactly what they're funding. So it'll all be available on the website. People can check it, see the progress. Another big change that Jay made is he's forcing all these institutions to make the research public instead of hiding it behind secretive walls where only other scientists can get to it. He's requiring that all research that's being funded by NIH, unless it's classified, be made entirely available to the public. This is a great change because it allows people like me and researchers at Brownstone to take a careful look at exactly what NIH is doing, and the CDC and the FDA, make an evaluation so there's a little bit of public accountability to what these agencies are doing. This is a big change from what we've seen over the past, where they were so secretive. Nobody really knew what was going on. It was pretty scary. That's come to an end. That's coming to an end now. We can expect that everything that taxpayers is supporting, at least, as I say, non-classified kind of research, is going to be available to the public for careful evaluation, so we can make a judgment on whether they're doing the right thing with our tax dollars or not.
Yeah, radical transparency, as President Trump likes to put it. Now, Jeffrey, these animal experiments, it's a controversial topic. It has been for decades. But it's controversial when it comes to certain animals like beagles, but then you don't hear as much outrage over other animals like lab rats. Do you think that's going to change in the future, or do you see animals like beagles being more of an outlier in this discussion?
I would expect it to be a bit of an outlier. Animals are essential to research. I'm not sure exactly what they've planned, but cruelty to animals is something that's contrary to the way humane people go about doing science. You'd only want to use that kind of research in extreme situations, and never with animals that would otherwise consider to be house pets and that sort of thing. It's all quite cruel, but I think the entire sector needs to be examined. When I look at some of the grants that NIH had been giving over the last 5 or 10 years, which is part of my job at Brownstone, I'm thoroughly shocked. It just seems like it was a big gravy train, just excuses to hand out other people's money to keep the scientists fully employed to do junk science. That's a lot of what the NIH has funded. It's just disgraceful. But that's the world that Jay has inherited. There's been almost no transparency for years. Anthony Fauci really did rule the place with an iron hand, including secrecy. Everybody was scared of him. And that's a problem. Because the culture of these agencies really needs to fundamentally change. And I would say it's Jay's biggest challenge right now, is changing the culture of the agency, one from fear and graft and close ties with industry, into one that's doing good science, transparent science, is sharing it with the public, science in the public interest that's reproducible, verifiable, and serves the public and public health. That's what he's all about.
All right, Jeffrey, to your point of this really almost a revamp of the American health sciences system, let's talk about Secretary RFK Jr. now requiring all of these new vaccines to be tested against placebos before they're being licensed. So the need to test products before they're made public for safety reasons is obviously completely understandable. But my question here, Jeffrey, is there a risk of the government bogging down innovation or America's dominance in certain sectors through this type of heavy regulation? I mean, how should the government be balancing this?
My immediate response to that is that we'd rather have bogged down trials than dangerous shots being distributed to the public. You know, we have to remember that a lot of these shots that are on the childhood schedule are required in many states, with some states don't even have religious exemptions. So, and the companies that produce them and distribute them are indemnified against being held liable for harms. So it's absolutely essential that they be required to do placebo controlled randomized trials on these things before they go to market after production, to make sure that they're not dangerous. They need to be longer term, not 3 months, not 6 months, but a longer term, so that we don't end up in a situation like we did with the COVID-19. Now, over the weekend, I listened to a lot of people objecting to RFK's plans here on grounds that the shots are already placebo tested. But you know, there's a huge difference between a lab test and an actual real life trial, placebo-controlled trial. So if you listen to the language, they say they're tested, but the critical issue is the trial itself. That's where we've gotten into so many problems. The COVID-19 shots were tested in a trial, but the trial was very short. The placebos have been widely criticized of being dirty and dropping signals. We just need much higher standards. And if that slows down the bringing something to a market, that's just the way it's got to be. And we're better off having a slower, more calmer, scientifically valid process than rushing these things to market and risking that people are going to be endangered for injury and death as a result. So I think they've got their priorities exactly right.
Yeah, slow and steady wins the race. Jeffrey Tucker, thank you so much for coming on today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Moving on, Olympic swimmer Gary Hall Jr. received replicas of his 10 Olympic medals today after the originals were unfortunately destroyed during the Los Angeles wildfires in January. The athlete became emotional during a ceremony in Switzerland.
Thank you for the medals. Never before have 10 Olympic medals been replaced, probably because nobody's lost 10 medals before. I'll do a better job of taking care of these.
International Olympic Committee President Thomas Bach presented the replicas at the headquarters of the Games ruling body in Lausanne. Hall represented the United States at the 1996, 2000, and 2004 Olympics. The swimmer won 5 gold, 3 silver, and 2 bronze medals in Atlanta, Sydney, and Athens. The 50-year-old was forced to leave the medals behind at his Pacific Palisades home during the fires. The January wildfires killed at least 29 people and scorched swaths of LA. Los Angeles will host the next Summer Olympics in 2028. Spectators filled the streets of London to commemorate the end of World War II. A 1,300-strong military parade with an accompanying band marched through the British capital, with the spectacle topped off by a Royal Air Force flyby. NTD's international correspondent Malcolm Hudson has more.
Thousands of people lined the roads of central London, from the Houses of Parliament to Buckingham Palace, and are greeted by the royal family. They mark the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II in Europe, known as VE Day or Victory in Europe Day. After Big Ben tolled at the stroke of noon, actor Timothy Spall recited the victory speech that Britain's wartime leader Winston Churchill delivered to a roaring crowd on May 8, 1945.
This is not a victory of a party or of any class. It's a victory of the great British nation as a whole.
The cenotaph, Britain's War Memorial, was covered with Union Jack flags for the first time since it was unveiled by King George V in 1920, 2 years after the end of World War I. About 1,300 members of the British Armed Forces paraded through the city, including soldiers on horseback and military bands. Joined by troops from the UK's NATO allies and Ukraine, the British government said it symbolises the global support for their continued fight for freedom against Russia. The procession started in Parliament Square and swept past Buckingham Palace, where King Charles III took the salute, joined too by Prime Minister Keir Starmer and over 30 World War II veterans. Spectators said they wanted to commemorate those who gave their lives to fight the war.
And we're very proud at that moment what they've done for us, and we're all proud of them, and we will always remember them.
I'm from Ghana. We came to help, and we have all the Commonwealth country came to help. That's why I'm here. So I'm here for the celebration of VE Day.
Couldn't miss it. Got to be here for this. 80 years. You know, got to celebrate everything that they did for us, really, haven't we? So that's why we're here.
The spectators awaited the Royal Air Force, or RAF, flyby, including the Lancaster, the most successful RAF heavy bomber in the Second World War, and the iconic Red Arrows, formerly known as the Royal Air Force Aerobatic Team, who provided the colourful finale to the flyby. Since the Red Arrows' first season in 1965, they have performed almost 5,000 displays in 57 countries. 99-year-old World War II veteran Dennis Bishop attended the flyby rehearsal last Wednesday. He was a leading aircraftman with the Royal Air Force and saw active combat in Europe and Africa.
And I'm absolutely overwhelmed with all of this because although I'm nearly 100, you know, and it's gradually fading away now, but this has brought it all back to me again now.
Britain started its commemorations of VE Day 3 days early because Monday is a public holiday in the UK. May 8 is observed by many countries including Britain, France and the United States as the date when the unconditional surrender of Nazi Germany took effect in 1945. Malcolm Hudson, NTD News.
Coming up, Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is requiring that all new vaccines be tested against placebos before being licensed. We asked a doctor to tell us how these tests are currently done and why. Stay with us.
This is such a gentle painting, so beautifully portrayed.
A group of people reading together in this simple, everyday-looking living room. A young girl reading along with an adult, a grandparent sitting in the lotus position, a businessman in his typical suit.
You see all those people, they look like they have quietly settled down there. And you as a viewer, it looks like you've just stepped in the door.
You can't see what it is they're reading, so you're a little bit curious and you're kind of invited to walk in.
This harmonious feeling is not by accident. It is the very subject of the work. The book they are reading is the main text of Falun Gong, which is an ancient Chinese spiritual discipline in the Buddhist tradition. At the core of Falun Gong are the values of truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance. Unfortunately, the practice is banned in China, where the artist resides. Thousands have been killed for their faith. Golden energy blooms into the room as a result of their steadfast faith. The painting on the back wall reminds us of this work's title, Plum Blossoms in a Muddy World.
It's also a metaphor for the practitioners that are sitting in the room as plum blossoms.
They signify perseverance and hope that all brutal winters end and life is renewed once again.
The magical painting
August was born 3 pounds, 9.8 ounces. When I first saw him, it was like a whole range of emotions, joy, sadness. There's gonna be obstacles. You're gonna feel like, why is it happening to me? And you're gonna realize you're not the only one. There's no perfect way. Your own way will be the perfect way. You're gonna protect it with all your might. Just seeing him happy, it's just joy, you know? I look through his eyes, I can envision like a whole future with him already. To throw the first football to him, give him ice cream for the first time. Oh man, he can smile now. I'm happy because he's advancing in life, you know, he's growing. Being a young dad, it's not giving up, it's shifting. My life is now devoted to his.